Here's another quick Photoshop Elements tutorial of how I'm going to make a flap for my notebook using some of the digital products. So here I've opened a 10 by 4 journal card from one of the digital range, and there's one of these for each day of the week in different colours, so I'm going to use them for every day for my news and weather. So the first thing I want to do is turn this into a vertical. So I'm going to go Image, Rotate, 90 degrees left, and now I'm going to use it in the vertical. And the second thing I'm going to do is actually chop it down, because it's 10 inches. It's 10 inches on the side here, and I don't want it that big. So I'm going to go across here and get the crop tool. And the page in the notebook is actually 8.5 inches. So I've just used the custom tool down here and put in my own dimensions of 4 by 8.5. And so when I go up here and drag that down and drop it, you can see the black and white numbers. It's going to be 4 by 8.5. So I click the check mark. Now, actually, I've decided I want 4 inches to be showing on the flap, but then I want another ½ inch probably to go over the other side of the page as a hinge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go Image, Resize the canvas, and I'm going to make it actually probably 4.5 inches instead of 4, and click OK, and then that will just make it that bit wider. So I can now shuffle that over to the left, and I've got some extra space there which I'll fill in a minute. So the next thing I want to do is cover this space with the patterned paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the box that I want to fill with pattern paper. So I go over here and select the rectangle tool, and I don't need it to be black. I think I can have it grey. Click OK. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle by clicking and dragging and covering the whole of that card that I want to have the pattern paper on. So that's where my pattern paper is going to fit in. So now I go to the photo bin where I've already opened the pattern paper I want to use, and I click on it and drag it up and put it on top. So it comes in at the width here, but it's not the right length. So what I want to do is I want to make it cover this grey square, grey rectangle. So what I'm going to do is get my move tool and hover over one of the corners of this pattern paper and drag it out until it covers the top, and then this corner, drag it out until it covers the bottom, and then click the check mark. So if we go over to the layers on this side, you can see I've got my pattern paper, I've got the shape I want it to fit inside, and then I've got my base layer. So what I'm going to do now is making sure that the pattern paper is above the rectangle I want to fill. I'm going to click on this pattern paper, right click, and click on Create Clipping Mask, and that will make that pattern paper jump into that grey rectangle. So if I come back over here, as I click, you can see it jump into that rectangle. So now I've got the front part that I want. So it's looking okay. I could just nudge it a tad to the right. I can just see a very fine white line there, so I'll nudge it. It might be this layer, the grey layer. If I click on this layer, I can nudge it as well, and that might just be enough to cover that up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in here some digital stamp that says Thursday. So I'm going to rotate this by going image, rotate, right. And then I'm going to go across to my digital stamp brushes tool and then click down here on the selection. And I've already loaded the set of digital stamps I bought in this year's release, and I'm going to use Thursday for this one because in my notebook the green is Thursday. So I'm going to click on that. Now when I click on that, I probably need to, yes, it's telling me here I can't put it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new layer, new, oh, slipped off it, layer, new, layer, okay. And then now I can put my stamp on that layer, but you can see it's far too big. So what I need to do is go down here and make it smaller, probably about 300 pixels, something like that. Let's try about that, see if that fits. Yeah, it looks like it'll fit. And then I'm going to go over here because I want to make sure I'm on black. So I'm going to click on black and go back over here because I want to make sure that this stamp is in black. And click on that, and there's my Thursday stamp. So now I can rotate this whole thing, image, rotate, 90 degrees left. So that's the flap done. So the next part is to create the template for the news and weather screenshots. So what I did here was I created, pick up my move tool, I created a background shape, custom sized. I wanted it 3.5 by 8.5. And to do that, I went File, New, Blank File. And then in here, I went down to Custom, made sure I was on inches, and then put 3.5 and in the height 8.5. So I click OK. So that's how I made the background. Then I went and chose my rectangle tool and I drew a couple of rectangles that I thought looked about right. Just did this by eye. I drew one and I thought that can be for my news. And then I wanted the same size for my weather down here. So what I did was I went over here, right click on that rectangle, duplicate that layer, click OK, and I now have a second rectangle on top of the first one. So if I pick up my move tool, I can move that down here. So now I've got one for my news and one for my weather, and I'm just spacing them out by eye. So that's ready to receive the screenshots inside that black rectangle. The next thing I wanted to do was type. So I went over and picked up the type tool and I clicked here, and then you choose your font down here and your size. I don't know, probably about 18, might be too big, we'll see. And then you type. Today's, I need an apostrophe, weather. And I click OK. And then I can grab that and put it where I want it. And then I get the type tool again and I click down here. And I'm going to put today's news and click OK, and then drag that to where I want it. That looks a bit smaller actually. Don't know why, maybe not. says it's 18. I can make it bigger by pulling on the corner if I want to. Because it's a smaller word, I can just drag it out by the corners. So I've got today's news, today's weather. So there we are. So now on the day, when I do a screenshot of the news and weather, all I have to do is bring it into my Photoshop Elements and then grab it and drag it on top of one of these rectangles. Maybe shrink it down a bit and bring it down. It's the picture of the front page I want really. And then I make sure that that is directly above the shape I want it to sit in. I right click on the picture here. Oh, I haven't clicked the check mark. Click the check mark to say I'm happy with that there. And then right click and create a clipping mask, and what will happen is it'll jump inside that rectangle. So that's my news picture in the right box. And then I can go to my photo bin and do exactly the same for the weather. So I go back here and I click on the weather and I drag it in. I make it a bit smaller, like this. Bringing the corners in so that you're shrinking it proportionately. Make sure that's above the rectangle that you want it to sit in. Haven't clicked the check mark. Always click the check mark and then you can move on to the next thing. Right click, create clipping mask, and it's jumped into there. So that's the flap on the inside. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to print these so that they can be folded back to back. So I've opened a new piece of A4 paper here. I'm going to drag this that I made first into here, bring it over to this side, and then I'm going to drag this that I made here and put it next to it, like that. That seems to have gone in at the wrong height. Yeah, I don't know why, I'm just shrinking it up until that black, I know it's got to be 8.5 or roughly 8.5 there, so I'm going to put it about there. Click OK, get those side to side, side by side. The dotted line shows me exactly when they're touching. And then I can click off that and then print that out. So let's go and print.